This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop early holiday deals now.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Emily.
And today I am going to tell you about the horrific murders of Blake and Mary Jo Hadley, a husband and wife that were killed in their Florida home in 2011. While their killer has been caught, the proposed motive for the crime has left many wondering, is there more to the story that we don't yet know?
Well, this is a trial by podcast, so we'll let you be the judge.
Boom!
And there it is. Cut.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, hi, how are ya?
Hey, hi, how are ya? We are recording here on a Sunday afternoon, and we're both tired, so I think we're going to get into it pretty quick. But do us a favor, and if you like this episode, send it to a friend. Make sure you're following us wherever you're listening, and give us a 5-star review. That'd be great.
Thanks.
So
5 stars.
With that being said, because we keep getting comments about how me and Emily talk too much or go back and forth about non-case related stuff.
And to that I say, there's a skip 15 seconds button. At
True.
least there is on Spotify.
True.
So go ahead and...
Skip. Okay, you don't need to skip right now, though.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that.
We're just
much of
going
a
to do
tangent.
it. We're just going to do it. Content warning for this episode, we are going to be discussing suicide, thoughts of suicide, depression, and some drug use as well. I think those are the main things that we will discuss. So if that is not something that you want to listen to, feel free to skip this episode or skip through those parts, but come back next week and we will still love you. So,
here we go.
The day of July 16th, 2011 was a relatively normal Saturday for 17-year-old Michael Mandel. He went about his day per usual, pretty much, and that night he headed over to his best friend Tyler's house for a party. The two boys had been friends since they were 8 years old, so Michael felt pretty comfortable over at Tyler's. However, this was a little bit of an unusual circumstance for Tyler to even throw a party at his house, and especially a massive party like this one was.
Rager.
But Tyler said that he had convinced his parents that he would be fine on his own while they were out of town, which meant that the party was on.
Project X style sounding like.
Project X style.
Do you remember when that movie came out and it was like it was like the coolest movie ever? Because we were in like
Oh yeah, epic.
I think it was like
what was the song from it? Wasn't
school.
there like a song that was like,
let's get fucked up? I don't know.
But so Michael was having a pretty good time at the party, which just seemed to be getting crazier and crazier as time went on. Then around 1 o'clock in the morning, Tyler, who had been a little quieter than usual that evening, asked Michael if he would go on a walk down the street with him so they could speak privately away from everyone else. So Michael agrees, and the two boys walk down the street together all the way down to the end of the street to the stop sign. Now, Tyler mainly spoke while Michael listened. He found the story that Tyler was telling him to be he was a little incredulous of the story.
Okay.
So eventually, the two finish talking and they head back to the house. Tyler then took Michael around the house a bit, pointing out different things that were out of place, before finally leading him to the master bedroom. Before Tyler even opened the door, Michael noticed blood on it.
Oh.
Inside the room, Michael stood staring at basically a giant pile of dining chairs and towels that were soaked with blood. Michael's eyes scanned the pile until finally he noticed something sticking out from the bottom of the pile. It was a human leg.
Oh.
And in that moment, with the sounds of the lively party of 60 in the background, Michael realized that what Tyler had told him on their walk was true. Tyler had indeed murdered his parents earlier that day and threw a party to celebrate.
I remember this case. It's crazy.
Yes. So let's go back to the beginning. But before we do, I want to give a quick note on the sources for the episode. So as you guys know, I always use an array of sources. But one of the main sources for this case, and I think any podcast you listen to about this case or show you watch about this case or anything, this is going to be one of the main sources because the guy who wrote this article, who's named Nathaniel Rich, he interviewed a lot of people who went to the party and all of these people who were involved in this case. So he wrote a Rolling Stone article called Tyler Hadley's Killer Party. And that's, again, one of the main sources here.
What a good title, though, for that.
I know. It's a little, yeah. Blake and Mary Jo had moved from Fort Lauderdale to Port St. Lucie, Florida, to be closer to Blake's parents, who lived in a nearby town called Stewart. Now, why can't I say Port? I think my brain is saying Dave Portnoy. I'm going Portnoy. Port St. Lucie was originally designed as a retirement community and was a relatively boring place for young teens. There wasn't much for kids to do there, which probably didn't help the city's burgeoning marijuana problem.
Oh.
Pot was popular amongst the teens, of course, but it was bigger than that in Port St. Lucie. Large-scale Miami drug dealers apparently invested in a bunch of real estate in the area during the real estate boom because it was just so cheap in that area. And they started using residential homes as like mini grow house operations.
Dude,
it's
like Monopoly for weed.
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, in 2006, law enforcement shut down 69 grow operations in Port St. Lucie alone. That's a lot.
69.
69.
It's a very specific number.
Why did I know you? Yeah, do you think they were like, okay, we got one more down the street, and they're like, dude, it's
it's already at 69. We're good.
We almost hit December 31st. Can we just wait till January 1st to go get that one? So, according to the Hadleys' next door neighbor named Rayanne Wallace, Tyler always, quote, seemed like a happy kid, end quote. She told Nathaniel Rich from the Rolling Stone article that he was respectful and polite, always with the yes ma'ams and no ma'ams and all of that. She said that as a child, Tyler would wait for his dad to come home from work, and the two would play basketball in the driveway for hours together. Aww. She also often heard the family like playing together in their backyard pool, and she said overall they just seemed like a happy family, especially during his childhood. Mm-hmm. Now, other neighbors and those close to the Hadley family all pretty much say the same. But behind the scenes, the picture wasn't completely perfect. Mary Jo actually struggled with depression, and Tyler, as he was getting older, started to suffer from depression as well. And he did receive counseling for some time. Though he eventually grew to be 6'1", Tyler was short as a child, and he was a little bit chubby when he was younger. So he struggled immensely with his self-esteem and his body image, and he was even treated for an eating disorder in his adolescence.
Damn.
At one point, Mary Jo actually put Tyler on human growth hormones, hoping that his struggle would lessen and his self-esteem would rise if he grew a bit taller and thinner and just kind of like grew into his body more.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. I was like,
feel bad for him.
That's what I thought. This was odd. Like when I first read that, I was like, who's just putting their kid on HGH? Because like I thought, I'm picturing just like shooting your kid up with steroids, like like you're buying them off the street or something. So I was like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. So I did like look this up though, because my natural reaction was like, well, of course he ends up being like full of rage and stuff, you know?
Yeah. His mom's like, yeah, you are too short. Do you want to take this medicine? Maybe it'll make you grow.
Right. But I was thinking the same thing, but then I was like, okay, well, I'm not a parent and I'm not a doctor, so maybe this is like a legitimate thing. So I looked it up, and it does look like this is like a legitimate therapy that doctors use to treat children with growth hormone deficiency and other types of syndromes that can cause growth issues. Okay. So it's likely, and I don't know for sure, like I couldn't find the answer to this anywhere, but it is likely that this was fully above the board and like prescribed by a doctor and all of those things. And I also I was like, okay, well, what are the side effects of giving a child HGH? And from what I read, which I'm not going to lie, I only read like 2 articles about it. So it's not like I went on a whole rampage about this, but
my gut's telling me that it's probably going to give him depression.
Well, that's what I'm like, are there like psychological side effects of this? Because you hear about that, like when people take steroids, they get roid rage and all of that. But I didn't see any, like the studies that I read about didn't seem to have like any evidence, at least, of emotional side effects from this therapy in children, though there were some possible physical side effects like headaches, vomiting, limping, joint pain, and rashes. So who knows? But I just wanted to say, because every time I hear this case, I always have that question. I'm like, I feel like people are like, yeah, and then she gave him HGH. And I'm like, what the fuck? But I think it's just, I don't know. So in case you at home had that question as well, there's somewhat of an answer. So
a guesstimation.
Even with all of this, even though everyone's saying, they really seem like a pretty happy family, like loved each other, good parents, everything like that. People do mention that there seemed to be a pretty notable shift in the family dynamic once Tyler entered high school. He became very quiet and he'd be quiet and reserved all the time, but then he would randomly have these odd outbursts. Like they tell the story about how he was in class one time and he just started mooing like a cow, like super loudly and wouldn't stop, and just like out of nowhere.
Interesting. So that's weird.
Yeah, he was described as like bizarre, unpredictable, hyper, and it seemed pretty evident to like other adults around that he was kind of a troubled kid.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, yeah, if you're mooing like a cow, like
yeah, that is
like,
the number one sign of
troublement. A cow.
Well, yeah, if you're mooing like a cow, obviously.
Yeah, you got problems.
So yeah, that's our advice. If you find yourself mooing like a cow, we advise you to go see a doctor.
Seek help immediately.
Now, once when a neighbor caught him smoking and told Mary Jo about it, Mary Jo didn't believe it. She just told the neighbor, quote, "My son doesn't smoke."
My son would never.
Exactly. And then the lady's like, "Okay, yeah, but I saw him smoking."
But isn't that every parent?
Yeah. And then Mary Jo is just like, well, Tyler kind of thing. So I don't know. It just kind of goes to show you that it's like, she was defensive of her son. Like, no, he wouldn't do that, type of thing. Like, she didn't think of him as like this bad kid like that, not again.
As any mother would, I feel like.
Right. Now, a couple weeks later, just a few weeks after the smoking incident, Tyler and some friends dragged an old couch out to the River Park Wildlife Preserve and lit it on fire, which naturally began to spread throughout the wildlife preserve. Oh, no. Now, luckily, the fire department arrived in time to put it out before it actually became like a wildfire.
Like an issue?
Like an issue, but it was still a very large fire. Despite all this, though, Tyler and his friends were just kind of like let off on a warning. Like, hey, probably don't do that.
Yeah, like maybe keep the lighting couches on fire to a minimum and like in your own backyard.
Yeah, maybe not in a wildlife preserve. Now,
that's something my brother would have done.
I want to give you guys like a heads up on the way that I wrote this, because there's like a lot of little things leading up to this. So I thought that I pretty much wrote it in chronological order. So we're basically going to start right now with we're 10 weeks away from the party. 10 weeks away from when he murders his parents and has the party, because that happens on the same day. So just to give you a heads up on, I don't know, because I'm going to start every paragraph with 10 weeks before the party, 9 weeks before the party, 8 weeks before the party. But I just felt like
get your timeline correct in your brain, map it out.
Yeah.
And here it comes.
I felt like it was the simplest way to make it less confusing.
It's giving me visuals, so I like them.
So yeah, just picture that like Netflix like timeline that like zooms, and then it like there's a whooshing sound with it. So 10 weeks before murdering his parents,
zoom back out.
Tyler got into a fight. And this fight actually led to him being charged with aggravated battery. So, like, this was a big thing.
Yeah.
Now, due to the fact that he already had a juvenile record before this, which included a previous conviction for burglary, Tyler was sentenced to a week in county jail and 2 weeks of house arrest for this aggravated battery charge. Now,
but his mom does not believe that he'd be smoking weed.
Yeah, at the time. Now, Mary Jo, because of this whole thing, Mary Jo took his phone away. And because of this, he had to start communicating with his friends via Facebook Messenger and or Facebook chat, whatever it was back then. Because this is like back in the days where you had like a family computer. You know what I mean? He didn't have an iPhone.
Like AIM times.
Right. So in a chat with a female friend named Isadora Gasho, Tyler told Isadora that he was considering suicide and felt like he wanted to die sometimes. Isadora responded to this saying, quote, "Don't die," with 3 E's. "Smoke a bowl whenever you're down," end quote. And then she put a tongue out emoji with it. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I would advise that if your friend tells you that they're considering suicide,
probably not the best advice.
This was not the best response she could have had. I think in this scenario, especially for teens, you should tell an adult and get them to help you. Tell someone at the school counselor or something. Yeah. But don't just say, "Don't die, smoke a bowl." I just don't think that's the best advice, but she's a teenage girl. Anyway, with that being said, Tyler then responded to her saying that he used to do that, but now he just drinks a lot when he's depressed to fill the emptiness inside him.
Also, don't do that.
Yeah, that is also...
probably worse than smoking bowl.
My advice, and actually this is real advice, obviously I'm not a psychologist, don't take my advice because I'm not a doctor and I don't want any sort of liability with that, but just from my own experience, if you are experiencing depression, you should be sober. Anything else will make it worse. So he tells her, I'm trying to fill the emptiness inside, with just drinking a lot. And Isadora told him that he's quite the character. And Tyler just responds to this saying, "Yes, but all my smiles are fake." Now, in a chat with a different friend named Mercedes Marco, Tyler told her about his recent arrest. This chat took place on Mother's Day, and Mercedes asked Tyler if his mom was pissed off at him, about the fact that he assaulted someone in an aggravated way and got arrested. And Tyler told her, quote, "No, she's disappointed. I feel bad. She was crying," end quote. He went on to say that he and his older brother Ryan took her out to eat for Mother's Day that day and that they had a nice day together. So remember, this is less than 10 weeks before the murders at this point.
Damn.
So just 6 weeks before the murders, Tyler's older brother Ryan had left to attend college in North Carolina. Tyler later went on to say, and we'll get to who he said this to and all of that, but he later went on to say that he was waiting for his brother to move out before killing their parents. So this was an important box to check. He didn't want his brother to be in the house.
Yeah.
Now, 2 weeks after Ryan left, which is now a month before the murders, Tyler went to a party, got wasted, and peed on his friend Desiree's bed. Somehow...
That's rude as fuck.
Somehow his mom found out about this, and this prompted Mary Jo to admit him to a mental health clinic for involuntary psychiatric treatment.
Damn.
Now,
she said, "That's my last straw."
Yeah.
Peeing on your friend's bed, that is no bueno.
I think you need some help. So in order to admit someone involuntarily in Florida at this time, what I read is that they have to show that it is likely that this person is a physical threat to themselves or others. You can't just be like, "My son's sad and I need you to..."
He's being weird and peeing on friends' beds. Can we admit him?
But I think she was concerned about what he might do to himself. And actually, I know that because after Mary Jo admitted Tyler, a friend asked her if she was worried that Tyler might hurt her. Mary Jo said no. Like, she wasn't worried that Tyler was going to hurt her. She was just worried that he was going to hurt himself. And that was why she was having him admitted. Mary Jo, like I said, she struggled with depression herself. And she was like starting to see the same struggle in Tyler. And she had actually like told some of her closer friends that she felt bad because she felt like she had passed it on to him.
Yeah, that sucks. She's probably like, I know how he's feeling and he needs to get some help.
Right, exactly. So about 2 weeks before the murders, Mary Jo told her friends that she thought Tyler was, quote, over the hurdle, end quote, because now he's out of this involuntary treatment. He seems to be doing better. I believe they put him on some medication, and she felt like he was getting better and he was on the right track. And she was just telling her friends, like, she was so happy because she had seen so much improvement in him, and she felt like he was back to his old self. Now, remember, this is 2 weeks before he murders her brutally. So it's just like crazy. I don't know. It goes to show that it's like people who are really struggling, I think, can hide it very well sometimes. Now, around this same time, Tyler was hanging out with his friend named Marky Phillips over at Marky's house. According to Marky, Tyler basically just blurted out to him that he, quote, wanted to kill his parents and have a big party after, end quote. To which Marky responded, "That's crazy." True,
As you
Marky.
should.
True, Marky. No.
Valid response.
Valid response. I mean, I would have taken it even further. Like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Marky nailed it with that one. Now, Marky just assumed that Tyler was joking, and he said he never really thought much of it after Tyler said that.
Yeah,
Like,
what do you do when your friend comes up to you and says, I think I'm gonna kill my parents and then have a big party after?
and I'm sure he said it, like, I don't know. I feel like he probably was like, he just said it out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
of course you would think they're
Like
joking.
something funny, like, oh, haha.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard scenario because it's like, of course, you would never believe that your friend would do something like that.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know. Like, I always look at these scenarios, like, especially because hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
And so I always like look at these scenarios when we talk about these cases. I'm like, okay, what could people have done differently along the way that may have led to a different outcome? And I don't do that to like criticize the people and what they did, because I totally understand why he just thought Tyler was joking. Anyone would. I would if a friend said that to me, 100%.
I feel like I would if anyone said that to me. I wouldn't
I feel
immediately
like I make
think
those jokes. Like, if someone makes me mad, I'm like, it's okay. There will be no evidence, and they'll never be found. And like,
Yeah.
I'm 100% kidding, obviously.
red flag.
But yeah, maybe I'm going to stop making those jokes. But like, of course you would think they're joking, but I always will like, want to look back. It's like, I don't know, what lessons can we learn from this? So maybe if we're ever one of these people who are like along the way like this, that we can be like that one person that's like, okay, I think you're joking, but also, can you elaborate on this joke for me or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Explain
I don't know
further,
what he could have
please.
done differently, but I'm just thinking out loud now.
Maybe he could have, like, I don't know, maybe told somebody else, like, hey, this dude's told me he wants to kill his parents.
Yeah.
Don't know if he's joking. Or...
Yeah. Or like, if, I know some people don't really have a good relationship with their parents, but if you're a teenager, like, maybe you go to your parents and be like, yeah, Tyler made this weird joke.
Yeah, like,
I don't know what to do
can't
about
tell
that.
if it was joking or...
What would you do, though, if you were a parent and your kid? I would for sure call the parents of that kid immediately and be like, I think that he might kill you.
Yeah, I'd be like, can you sleep with two eyes open at all times? Because
Two eyes
your kid is making jokes about killing you. Unless it's a joke. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because, from most accounts, it seems like, and we'll get into some details of like, there were like rocky times between Tyler and his parents, but overall, it's not like his parents were like
Beating him or like...
We'll get into one scenario. There were some reports that Blake had punched Tyler before. So he says this to Marky. This is about 2 weeks before the murders. Around the same time, so also about 2 weeks before the murders, Tyler was Facebook messaging with his friend Mercedes Marco. So also 2 weeks before the murders, Tyler was Facebook messaging with his friend Mercedes Marco, complaining that his mom had taken his phone away because he was assaulting people. And this is when Tyler told Mercedes, he said, quote, LOL, yup, she's a cunt for show. I might kill her, end quote. Mercedes then responded saying, oh my God, or she said, OMG, no, jail, exclamation points. Then she said, or I mean prison, exclamation point, LOL. And then Tyler responded back to her and said, oh well. And then he put like the little arrow with the 3 to make the heart. Mm-hmm. So he just said, LOL, yep, she's a cunt for show. I might kill her. And this is all about because his mom took his phone away after he got literally arrested and went to jail for a week because
getting his
he
phone
assaulted.
taken away, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really pretty reasonable of Mary Jo to take his fucking phone away.
I would be like, you're not allowed to talk on Facebook either, so.
That's what right?
They'd be not allowed to come out of their room. They'd be eating prison meals.
You slide them under the door.
Aren't you excited to be my kids?
Now, the weekend before the murders, so this is a week after he's saying all that stuff to Mercedes, Tyler, Blake, and Blake's father, Maurice, all went to Georgia together to go to a family reunion. So it's like Tyler, his dad, and his grandfather. Mm-hmm. And Maurice later told Nathaniel Rich from the Rolling Stone article, he said, quote, I didn't see any indication that there were any problems between Tyler and his parents, end quote.
That's so weird.
Is crazy. He's telling his friends a week before that he's going to murder them. We know that he does murder them like a week later. And
but
he's saying, I had no idea.
Was...
Like, it just seemed like a normal family reunion.
That's weird.
Like a normal family trip with my son and my grandson. I'm like, that fucking breaks my heart.
Yeah. It's kind of creepy, too.
It is creepy.
Because if you think about it, he was probably just acting completely normal the entire time.
Exactly. And that's what you would assume when you hear, especially when you hear what he did to them. You would assume that there would be a lot of signs leading up to this. Obviously, we're saying there are some. He's saying he's telling his friends. But again, it's like, I think anyone
not like
would
blatant
think,
signs. Like, he's not telling anybody else. He's telling his friends, and they're thinking he's joking.
Right. And I would too, honestly. I would have too. Now, on Friday, July 15th, which is the night before the murders, the Hadleys actually went out together for dinner. Now, I couldn't find for sure whether or not Tyler's brother Ryan was there. I questioned this because the way that it was written was like the whole Hadley family went out to dinner together, which in my mind would include Ryan, but I don't believe he was there because he was going to school out of state. And I know that he wasn't like home the next day during the party or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't like a special dinner.
No. So I think that, I just wanted to say I don't know for sure, but I believe it was just Tyler and his parents, really. Now, on the way to dinner, the family stopped at the gas station where Tyler ran into his friend named Cameron. So Cameron asked Tyler how his parents were. I don't know where I think maybe just Tyler went inside alone and the parents were out at the car or whatever. But Cameron's basically like, hey, how are your parents? And Tyler quietly responded, oh, they're all right. Cameron then told Tyler that it was his birthday and he and his girlfriend were going out to celebrate at Benihana's. And Tyler told him, quote, happy birthday. Come to my house tomorrow. I'm having a party. We'll celebrate, end quote.
That creeps me out just because I know how this ends.
Dude, that's like, we're going to celebrate for your birthday. I don't know. Because here's the thing is like, by all accounts, Blake and Mary Jo would never let him have a party, and they didn't have plans to go out of town. Like, that's what Tyler ends up telling everyone is his parents went out of town, and that's why he can have the party. So it's like the fact that he's telling someone on his way to dinner with his parents, he's telling this kid, I'm having a party tomorrow. Like, to me, that shows that he knows he's going to fucking kill them tomorrow.
Yeah, he's like, that's premeditated for sure.
Yes. Now, Tyler had... Now, so like I was saying, like Tyler had been telling kids at school. No, I wasn't saying that. So Tyler had been telling kids at school for about a week at that point that he was going to throw this huge party that weekend. But no one really believed him because they're like, like I said, your parents would never let you do that.
That's so creepy because he was like low-key excited for this party.
Yeah.
Knowing what he was going to do. Ooh.
Exactly.
That
Now,
gives me the jeebies.
at 9:40 a.m. on Saturday, July 16th, so this is the morning of the murders and the party, Tyler was texting with a friend named Matthew Noble, who was also 17 at the time. Matt said, "Did you do it?" Tyler responds, "No, but I'm gonna." Matt says, "Bet?" question mark. Then Matt sends a second text, "You really should now." He sends a third text, "Do it." Tyler responds, "Don't worry, I am." Tyler sends a second text saying, "Then I'm having a party." Matt then responds, "Yes, party time, N-word."
I got 2 words. 3 words. Fuck you, Matt.
I agree.
A
Fuck
big
you,
old
Matt.
fuck you, Matt.
Fuck you, Matt. I'm so confused by this because to me, this sounds like Matt knew Tyler was going to fucking murder his parents. And
Yeah.
he was telling him to
He's
do
like,
it.
do it, you won't.
So because they never specify in the Rolling Stone article, like, and they were talking about Tyler murdering his parents. So I don't know if like what texts were before this or if like they had talked about the like murders in person and then it was just implied in the text what it was. But I couldn't find, I'm like, okay, did this Matt kid admit that he was telling him to kill his parents?
Yeah, like,
or
is this
did he
for sure
come
they're
up with something else saying, "Oh no, I was telling him to have the party
Like,
or
have a
like
talk
to
with
ask
my
his
parents."
or
Yeah.
or something like that." So I couldn't find any information on that, on what he said it was. But to me, from this conversation with the limited information I have, it seems like Matt's telling Tyler to kill his parents. And if that's the fucking case, I think this kid should fucking get something too.
Yeah.
I think he like I mean at that point you're not an accomplice, but you're what's the word I'm looking for? Compliant. You're compliant. You now have the chance to stop this from happening, and you did not. And you covered it up.
He was encouraging it.
100%.
He was saying like, "Hey, did you do it yet? Did you do it yet? Did you do it?" It's like, I don't know. It almost sounded like a bet. Like
that's
he's
what
like,
I'm saying.
He's like, you said you were going to
do
it.
Do it.
Yeah,
I bet you won't. I bet you won't. Yeah. Like
that's messed up.
This kid,
Really
I'm like,
messed up.
again, I don't know for sure that he was encouraging him to kill the parents. That is just what it sounds like to me. But I'm saying if that is the case, I think this guy
That's
should
all the
get
way
some
messed up.
charges against him. Now,
Yeah.
at 11:25 a.m. on that Saturday, Tyler messages a friend named Antonio Ramirez, and he says, "Sup, brah?" Antonio then responds, "Chillin', what you doing tonight?" Tyler says, "Trying to have a party at my crib." Antonio says, "Your parents ain't home?" Tyler says, "Nope. Well, they're leaving soon."
Ooh.
Then at 1:15 p.m., Tyler posts on Facebook, "Party at my crib tonight, ... maybe." Then at 8:15 p.m., so 7 hours after that first Facebook status, he posts another status that says, "Party at my house, HMU," which, if you don't know, means hit me up. Now,
What happened to those 7 hours?
after he posts this, a friend named Ashley Hayes messaged Tyler and said, "WHAO," which is in all caps. Do you know what that means? WHAO? I don't know what that means.
WHAO.
I don't know if it was just like
Wow.
wow. Hold on. I'm going to Google it.
WHAO. Hold on.
Oh, Urban Dictionary. Okay, Urban Dictionary.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's
always
not
right.
an acronym. It basically means, "What the hell is that?" or "Haven't you heard?" Now, she said, anyway, sorry, I got stuck on
Sorry,
that.
tangent.
It's not that important. But she said, what is your parents come home? What I think she meant to say is, what if your parents come home? And Tyler responded to this saying, "They won't. Trust me." Terrifying.
Because he knows for sure they won't.
Now, I read a couple different accounts of how many people were at the party, and it is definitely agreed upon that there were at least 60 people there at the height of it.
Jeez.
But I did read somewhere, I read in one place, and I think it was the Rolling Stone article that said it, that at like the height of the party, there were about 100 people there. So either way, between 60 and 100 people in your fucking house is a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now, these fucking dogs are in the house, and they're hiding in the bedroom from all these people.
Meanwhile, their parents just got unalived.
Right. It's horrible. Now, at about 11:30 p.m., a kid named Mike Young and about 10 of his friends all showed up. And I was like, damn, you had 10 friends in high school? Good for you, Mike Young. Now, Mike Young was like a popular like jock at the school pretty much. And
he brought the whole football team.
Right. So he didn't really know Tyler. Like he knew who Tyler was. He knew what he looked like, knew his name, but like they weren't really friends or anything.
He just heard party, I'll be there.
Exactly. So according to Mike, when they arrived at the party, Tyler just seemed really anxious. He said it was clear from the size of Tyler's pupils that he was on ecstasy. He was rolling.
Damn.
Tyler told him, quote, "I don't want anyone smoking inside. It's my parents' house," end quote. Weird. Now, they began, like they being all the fucking 60 to 100 people inside, began to trash the house pretty quickly. They were throwing cans in the yard, putting out cigarettes on the rugs, the walls, the furniture, and they were just dropping drinks and like breaking shit everywhere.
And to that I say disrespect.
Dude, this is why, like, when I was younger, our house was always the party house. Like, my brother would have his friends over, and I don't know why I said when I was younger. That still happens to this day. It's still the party house. My point was that, like, I know how it is. Like, that's why it would drive me crazy because my brother's friends, now they're very respectful because they're adults and they clean up and shit. But, like, dude, I hated it because shit would just get ruined all the time.
Yeah, they're all high schoolers.
I
they
would
have
never
no
have
respect
fun
for
I'd be
anything.
like protecting my property. Now, despite this, though, Tyler seemed to be more worried about the party being noisy than about like stopping people from destroying his parents' house. I think he was worried about waking up the neighbors who might call the police. Now, he basically told people, look, you know what? You can just smoke inside. I don't care. But he did not want people outside making noise. That's when he would like start to like get
like paranoid.
He started to be like me when my brother would have parties. Like, hey, don't. Can you? Oh, I'm so sorry. Could you not?
Can you just shut the fuck up, please?
Could you not?
Keep it down.
Jump on my couch with your shoes on. Now, the teens played music from the family computer that was, I believe it was in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And so they're all like taking turns going on YouTube, playing different songs. And apparently, no one noticed the dried, sticky brown liquid that was all over the keyboard while they were using it. What the fuck? Now, everyone kept asking Tyler where his parents were. Like, hey, empty house, where were your parents? And he just kept telling them that they didn't live there and that it was his house. Obviously.
This dude's all over the place from going, hey, keep it down, it's my parents' house. Don't get your shoes all over the furniture. It's my parents' house. And then he's like, oh no, this is my house.
Yeah.
This isn't my parents' house. They don't live here. That's so weird.
And obviously his friends knew that this wasn't true. Like they knew that his parents lived there. And at one point, someone even made a joke that, like, oh, he must have killed them. Yeah. Now at 12:30,
I bet they feel super fucking shitty after making that joke.
Well, yeah, but you're like, you would never think that he actually fucking killed them to have a party. So at 12:30, Tyler asked his friend Mark Andrews for a favor. Now, Tyler had known Mark since they were kids because their brothers were friends, but they weren't the same age. In fact, Mark was 21, so he was 4 years older than Tyler. So Tyler asks him and his girlfriend, Ashley, if they would go to the gas station with him to buy some more beer because he needed Mark.
The ID.
Yeah, he needed Mark to go in and buy it. So Mark's like, yeah, for sure. So Tyler and Ashley go get into the car first. And while they're waiting for Mark to come out of the house, Tyler mentioned to Ashley, like just casually in conversation, that his dad was dead. Now, Ashley didn't know Tyler very well, so she just thought he meant like he died a few years ago or something.
Yeah,
or like he's been dead. Like this didn't strike her as odd.
Oh, okay.
So she just kind of gave him like some sort of, general condolences and
he
didn't really
just got
think
into the car. My dad's dead.
I don't know exactly.
What would you say to that? Like, I'm sorry.
I don't know how the conversation went. Like it sounded like maybe she said something about like, oh, like where's your dad or whatever.
My parents would never let me have a party. And he goes, well, my parents are dead. So.
Yeah, or something like that. I'm not sure. But she said, I didn't really think about it until the next day. Oh. Now, at 12:45 a.m., a kid named Anthony Snook got a text from a friend saying that the party was huge, so Snook decided to join. And when he got there, he thanked Tyler for throwing the party and just asked Tyler, like, hey, how you been? And Tyler just goes, all right, and avoided eye contact with him. Like, he didn't even look at him to respond to him. Now, soon after this, one of the partygoers ran into the house shirtless, holding a mailbox over his head, screaming. Tyler yelled at the kid, saying, where the fuck did you get that? To which Mailbox Boy responded, I took it off the neighbor's lawn, and continued to run around the living room. And he was like knocking over drinks and all this stuff. And Tyler started to freak out. Now, same. I would be too. I'd be like, this motherfucker. Like, Mailbox Boy, get out of my house.
Put that where the fuck you got it.
But really,
and get out of here.
Tyler was just freaking out. He's like screaming at the kid. He's like, stealing a mailbox is a felony. And he was scared that the neighbors were going to call the police. And like, because it's a felony, it was going to be like way bigger things. Exactly. Now, someone then took the mailbox from this idiot and put it back in the street. That's how I read it. I'm like, okay, but did you like put it back in the ground, or you just
did you guys rebury it, or you just leave it there like somebody ran it over?
I don't know, but they put it back somewhere. So this seemed to alleviate Tyler's worries for the time being. So right after this happens, Anthony Snook tried to enter the master bedroom. He noticed that the door was closed, and so he thought, oh, like, people are probably smoking weed in there. And he wanted to join. So he's, like, trying to get in because the door's locked.
He's like, hey, let me get under those drugs.
Exactly. So he finds that the door is locked. And this is when he notices a large, like, blackish smear stain on the floor underneath the door. Now, he wasn't sure what it was, but said that it looked like someone had tried to clean it up and that it wouldn't come off. Like, he said it looked like an oil stain. Like, I think it had, like, sunken like into, like, the grain of the floor. Mm-hmm. So, at about 1:15 a.m., a college soccer player arrived at the Hadley home. He wanted to remain anonymous in the Rolling Stone article, so we're just going to call him the soccer player.
Dude, literally every person from this school showed up at this party.
Dude, that's why I was like, I'm just going to put it in chronological order. I feel like there's a better, like, storytelling way to do it than chronological, but I'm like, just for, like, simplicity's sake, so you can follow what I'm saying, I feel like that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, so much happened. So
this soccer player shows up, and he gets there late. Again, this is like past 1:15 in the morning. And he pretty much just said that the first thing he noticed when he got to the house was the smell. As Nathaniel Rich described it, he said, quote, it smelled like sweaty clothes that had been sitting around too long, end quote. Ew. The soccer player also said that the house was pretty much a fucking disaster. Pictures had been torn from the walls. The floor was covered in grime from food and spilled drinks and who knows what else. And there were dirty dishes strewn across the kitchen floor. Taking all this in, the soccer player politely asked Tyler if there were any house rules, to which Tyler responded, just do whatever you want.
Okay.
And the soccer player headed over to just play a game of beer pong after that. During his game, however, his ball landed into like something on the floor that seemed to be a sticky brown substance.
Oh my God.
He picked up the ball, which now had the sticky brown substance on it, and he was kind of grossed out by it. So he rinsed the ball off in the sink and then promptly carried on with the game. Children listening out there, teens, you probably shouldn't be listening to this, first of all.
I was going to say, you shouldn't be listening.
Second of all, do not drink alcohol. It is bad for you, and you're not allowed. Tisk, tisk.
Don't do
But
drugs
if you do, and you play beer pong, Do it with water in the cups. And
don't
then just
drink
sip
it
out of your own drink.
Yeah,
it is
don't.
disgusting. Those balls touch everything. Like other people who just touched their balls and then they
you
touch
don't know where
the
those
ball
balls have
and then
been.
it's in your drink and you're drinking it. Don't do it. It's gross. Now,
oh God, I really hope they were playing with water.
I hope so too. Now, later on, when Mark Andrews, this is the 21-year-old kid who bought the beer and everything.
Yeah.
So when he told Tyler he was leaving, Tyler asked if he could talk with him privately before he left. So the two went outside, and Tyler told Mark, quote, "Dude, I did some things. I might go to prison. I might go away for life. I don't know, dude. I'm freaking out right now," end quote. Mark asked him what he was talking about, and Tyler told him, quote, "Dude, I know you are not going to believe me. No one will believe me. I freaking killed somebody," end quote. Mark responded to him, quote, "Dude, you killing someone is your own business. Don't be telling me that sort of thing. I don't need to know."
Don't leave me with that information. I don't want to know that shit.
Well, and then I'd be scared, like, are you going to hurt me because now I know?
Yeah.
But let me just tell you this, though, is like Mark then left and
went on about his life like nothing happened.
Yeah, I think so.
That's not cool.
I don't know. Maybe now someone else reports this pretty soon after, like early in the morning. So maybe he would have done the right thing the next day. But I'm like, okay, let's learn from this, guys. If someone ever tells you they killed someone, call the police immediately.
Maybe, yeah.
Immediately, especially if that person is in a house with like 50 other people that are probably in danger.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
I hope he learned his lesson.
Now, Tyler headed back into the house after talking to Mark. So he's gone. He left. He goes back inside. And while he's walking inside, Tyler passes 18-year-old Ricardo Acevedo. And they didn't really know each other before the party, but Ricardo was leaving, so he knew it was Tyler's party. So he just thanked Tyler. He's like, "Thanks for having us over and thanks for the beer and all of that." And Tyler responds to him just saying, quote, "I just wanted to do something fun before I left," end quote. So Ricardo asked Tyler, "Oh, where are you going?" Probably thinking that he was like moving away or something. And Tyler responded, quote, "I'm going to kill myself," end quote. So Ricardo asks him, "Why would you do that?" And Tyler says, quote, "Because I did something really bad," end quote. Ricardo asks him what he did. He's like, "It can't be that bad. Like, what did you do?" But Tyler didn't answer his question. He just told Ricardo, "Don't worry, I'll be in jail for a long time if I get caught."
Probably because he's like, "Oh, it's that bad."
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just scary. Like I said, they weren't really friends.
Well, it sounds like he's coming to the realization of what he did finally. Because at the beginning of the night, he was like, "Oh, well, yeah, my parents are gone. But also don't jump on the couch because it's my parents' house." And then it turned into, "Oh, well, no, it's my house." And now it's turning into, "Well, I'm not going to be here for very much longer." So,
yeah. Now, so the timeline is a little bit confusing here because, and I don't even think you guys would notice if I didn't bring it up, but like there's a couple things that like there's conflict. Someone says this happened around 1:00. I was talking to Tyler and he said this, and then someone else says they were talking to Tyler around 1:00, and it's like obviously you both weren't. It's two separate conversations.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit, it overlaps a little bit, I think it's just because they were fucking drinking, they were partying, they're not paying attention to what time it is. But I just wanted to bring it up in case some asshole gets in the comments section is like, "Excuse me, actually you said this happened at this time and this other thing happened at that time and you are so dumb. Why don't you look this up?"
You're just wrong.
It's because this is when people said it happened and I wasn't there, so I'm not going to change their fucking timeline.
Don't shoot the fucking messenger.
Anyway.
Okay.
Just getting ahead of the haters. So with that being said, according to Michael Mandel, which this is Tyler's best friend, and this is the one that in the beginning of the story sees the bodies. Okay. So we are now on Michael Mandel's story.
Yep.
So according to Michael, it was around 1 a.m. when Tyler asked him if they could go on a walk so they could have that private conversation. So once the pair got to the stop sign at the end of Tyler's street, Tyler told Michael that he killed his parents. But Michael did not believe him. He just told Tyler, like, yeah, right.
I don't blame him. I would honestly say the same thing. I'll be like, yeah, right. Okay.
Dude, me too. Now, Tyler responded, quote, Michael, I'm being real. I'm not lying to you. If you look closely enough, you can see signs. And he told Michael to look in the driveway. Now, Michael's, because they could see it from where they're standing at the stop sign.
Yeah.
So Michael looks over and he sees that the two cars parked at the top of the driveway were Blake and Mary Jo's cars. Now, he hadn't noticed this before, but he was like, okay, that's weird because there's no way they would let him throw this party. And if they were out of town, one of their cars would be gone.
Yeah.
Still, Michael thought Tyler was like pulling a prank on him. Maybe someone picked them up or whatever. So Tyler,
he's like, stop fucking with me, dude. Like,
exactly.
You're joking.
So Tyler told him, he's like, okay, go look in the garage. So inside the garage, Michael found a bloody shoe print. Now, at this point, I read this interview that Michael did with, I think it was like TC Palm, some random
news article, yeah.
And he said, he was like, I literally thought he was playing this like really elaborate prank. Like he put a fake bloody shoe print in the garage because...
Yeah, like a whodunit or like a murder mystery
like I thought
he
was just like, went through, he's like, oh, I'm going to get him so good or something. He's like, it didn't even cross my fucking mind that could be, like that this could be true, what he was saying. So he sees this bloody shoe print and he just immediately leaves the garage and shuts the door behind him. This is when Tyler takes him up to the master bedroom, and it's not up. I don't know why I said that. I believe it's on the main floor, but he takes him over to the master bedroom. And again, like I mentioned, this is where he sees the blood on the door and on the floor underneath the door. So Tyler unlocks the door and he reveals the pile of chairs and bloody towels, and there was so much shit in this pile. Like, if you see pictures, which I will put them on our Instagram and Facebook, of the pile of stuff, there's books, there's like a mop, it's crazy. But this is where he sees the pile, and again, underneath the pile were the bodies of Tyler's parents, Blake and Mary Jo Hadley. So, according to Michael, this is what Tyler told him happened. Now, Tyler is telling him this while they are standing in the master bedroom with their bodies, and he's looking at their bodies. You can't really see much because just one leg is just like sticking
under a
out.
pile of junk,
but
yeah.
So he tells Michael that just before 5 p.m. that day, he slyly took his parents' cell phones and hid them so that neither could call for help. He then turned on his favorite Lil Boozy song called Feel Lucky to pump himself up. He then took 3 ecstasy pills because he didn't think that he would have the guts to brutally murder his parents if he was sober. So he's just Lil Boozy.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Feel lucky.
If you don't have the guts to murder your parents, maybe you shouldn't do it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Now, he went into the garage and got a 17-inch hammer and then headed to where his mom was working on the family's computer. He stood behind her for a few minutes while she worked, just kind of ruminating on what he was about to do. And finally, he began to bludgeon Mary Jo with the hammer.
Oh my God, that makes me so sad. She was literally just on her computer, just probably Googling something.
And she did so much to try and help him.
Yeah.
Whether or not she did
him.
it, I know some people criticize like the HGH stuff and whatever, or like involuntarily committing him. But like obviously he was a threat to people. And I just think like she did her best to like take care of him and like love him, and it breaks my heart. So as he began to bludgeon Mary Jo, she just started screaming, "Why? Why?"
Oh.
Now, Tyler's father, Blake, came running after hearing the screams of his wife. He then asked Tyler the same thing that Mary Jo had, "Why?" To which Tyler responded, "Why the fuck not?" Blake and Tyler were about the same height, but Blake was much larger than Tyler at about 300 pounds compared to Tyler's 160 pounds. Now, it's unclear how Tyler overtook his father. Again, his father had the size on him. But Tyler told Michael that he then bludgeoned his father to death, the whole time screaming, "Why the fuck not?" over and over and over again. Again, remember, this is while Blake's body is right next to them in this room. Can you imagine being this fucking kid? Now, in all...
I can imagine being his friend telling me all of this. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
You think he's joking, and then he goes into detail about how he, like, viciously murdered his parents for no fucking reason.
And he's standing there telling you this while you are standing next to their bodies.
Yeah.
And he's known Tyler since he was 8 years old. So, like, these aren't fucking strangers.
These are like he your
knows
second
these
parents.
people.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like you grew up knowing. Oh my God.
Exactly. Now, in all, Mary Jo suffered 36 blows to her head and back, and Blake was hit 39 times in the head and chest.
Jeez.
At the time of their deaths, Blake was 54 years old, and Mary Jo was 47.
Oh.
Now, Blake's autopsy showed fractures in his arms and legs, as well as a large gaping wound on the right side of his head. So it was obvious that he was defending himself, trying to fight back and defend himself because of the fractures in the arms and everything. Now, Mary Jo also had a gaping wound, but on the back of her head. And her autopsy also showed broken ribs and a lung laceration because he was hitting her in the back with the hammer.
Jeez.
I just how could you do that to your own mother? How could you do that to anybody? But how could you do that to your own fucking mother? Like, especially, it's just like she's smaller than, I don't know. It blows my mind.
And he claims it was just because they took his phone away.
Well, we're gonna get to the why. We'll get to the why here in a minute. But
yeah, this is a brutal one.
That's one of the biggest questions: is why did he do this?
Yeah.
So Tyler told Michael that after the murders, he wrapped towels around the heads of his parents, presumably to cover their faces up, and then he dragged their lifeless bodies into their own bedroom. He put them next to each other, lying face down, with the hammer in between them on the floor.
Oh my God, this is giving me chills and making me so uncomfy. Like, not only did he do all of that to his parents, he dragged their bodies into their own bedroom and put the murder weapon in between them. Mm-hmm. And then stacked all this random shit on top of them.
We're about to get to the stacking because this fucking bothers me. This really bothers me.
Yeah.
So he lies them face down next to each other, and then he goes around the house just scouring the house for any evidence of the crime. So anything that was broken or had blood on it or anything. And he's just throwing it on, I don't know if he was throwing it. Obviously, I didn't see him. But he just is
stacking it like
on
a pile
top of their
trash.
bodies. A pile of fucking trash. Now, he covered them with bloody dining chairs, bloody towels, bloody pillowcases, books, broken dishes, and even the mop he used to clean up the blood from the kitchen.
Just anything and everything he could find.
Anything and everything he could find.
Chairs? That's insane.
And by the way, I just listed 6 things. Look at the fucking pictures that we have on our Instagram. They'll be posted by the time that you're listening to this. It is, you just look at it, it looks like a hoarder house or something. Like, you can't even see the bodies or anything, but you're like, I don't know, dude. It just it gives you a really sickening feeling just looking at it. Now, I found this horrific, of course, but it's also interesting in a very morbid and horrible way because I've never heard of this before, stacking of random objects on top of the bodies. And it really, I was like, why? Why did he do that? And so I was kind of thinking through the reasons, and I'm like, okay, obviously he wanted to hide the evidence of the murders in the room before the party because he didn't want people to know. He's like, okay, I'm going to put everything in one room and lock the door so no one sees it. But I'm also thinking, well, he could have just put everything in the bedroom. He didn't have to put it on top of their bodies. Mm-hmm. Why did he put it on top of them? And then the next obvious reason that I was thinking is okay, well, maybe he was trying to cover or hide the bodies.
That's honestly, I'm looking at the picture right now and that's what it looks like to me.
So
like you can't tell anything is under all of this shit.
Well, so I was thinking that too, but then I'm like, well, why couldn't you just put a blanket over them or something? Like, I just find it so weird. Like,
yeah, and he definitely didn't place things. Like, it looks like he just threw a bunch of shit in. So he's just like launching shit on top of his parents' dead bodies in this room.
Yeah, it's just odd. And like, if you're trying to cover them up because you don't want to look at them or you don't want people, if they get the door open or something, to see them, why not put towels and blankets and pillows over them or something? That obviously if they open this fucking door and see all this bloody stuff everywhere, like they're going to know something's wrong anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just feel like there's some psyche evaluation that needs to be done here on the like why all the objects, like was it like a, you know, he was acting out his hate for them, and or like it was supposed to, like it was symbolically a trash pile, or I don't know, but like I don't know if anyone has any theories on that, DM us or like put a comment on the episode. If you're listening on Spotify, we're on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at A Trial by Podcast. But I want to hear people's theories because I just found that I've never heard of that in any other case. So
yeah, I feel like most murderers, I would say, like, I don't know, it just blows my mind that he had no guilt or resentment at all. Like, that's why the pile of shit is like insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, don't a lot of murderers, especially if it's like they're close with them, don't they preserve it and like,
yeah, like they
give
put a
them
blanket
some
over
sort
them
of like a burial type thing, like a
because it's like a remorse. They're showing remorse. I don't know. It's odd.
Yeah, the picture. Definitely look at the picture of all of the shit because
it's wild.
I got questions.
Now, Tyler told Michael that it took him way longer to clean up the scene than he had expected, and it took about 3 hours in total. Once he was finished, he took a shower and stared at himself in the mirror, laughing after he got out of the shower.
The fuck?
That's what he told Michael. I'm like, what? Why? Now, when Tyler was finished fucking up Michael's psyche forever by telling him this story,
literally,
Michael left the room. And according to another party goer who saw Michael exit the bedroom, Michael seemed like, quote, he was looking over both shoulders, end quote. So if I were Michael...
Oh, I can't even imagine the look on his face. Like, I don't know how my face would look after I just see all of that and have all my best friends since I was 8. Like, if you came in and told me that, I would, like... I think I would have a panic attack. I don't know what I would do. I would freak out.
You would not do what Michael does. That's what I'll tell you.
Uh-oh.
So let me tell you what I would do if I was Michael, because I've had some time to think this through. This is what I would have done. I would have spread the word throughout the party. I would have been like, hey, I think Tyler's losing it a little bit. You guys should probably leave. Everyone should probably leave. Or I would call the police and get the police to break up the party.
Oh, I would call the police in 2 seconds.
I would run out of the fucking house as quickly as possible. I would bang on the neighbor's door, like, let me in for safety. And I would call 911 and be like, hey, my friend killed his parents, and there's about 60 people in the house that are in danger right now. And
they're
the bodies
partying
are
with
there.
Dead bodies, so.
And all of that. But I am not Michael. And what he did was not what I would have done. What Michael did was he stayed at the party for another 45 minutes. Why? He even went into the garage with Tyler, where they took a selfie together.
After he had already seen the bloody footprint, and after he had already seen both of his parents murdered, and after he'd already seen all of the evidence that he collected in the same room as his murdered parents.
Yes, and then they took a selfie together in the garage
and commemorate this night.
Yes, and I will post this photo as well, so check that out. But my impression of the photo is that it is extremely unsettling. Ooh. Now, neither boy is smiling or looks happy, but Tyler's holding up a plastic orange cup, almost like as a toast. Tyler's chin is tilted downwards, and the expression on his face is very sullen, very dark. And Michael, who was taking the photo on his cell phone, has his chin tilted up, like almost the opposite of Tyler's tilt. The expression on his face looks more stern, and he almost looks like he's like, it's like a little kid when they're like trying to be brave. Like that's what his facial expression reminds me of.
Yeah.
Of course, that's just my impression, but look at the photo and see what you guys think. Now, just before 2 a.m., word spread around the party that there was another house party going on. So people actually started just leaving Tyler's house in masses to head over there. Now, Tyler didn't hear about this other party, so everyone's starts leaving at the same time, and this freaks Tyler out.
He's like, oh shit, somebody said something.
Right. So he starts running out, and he runs out to one of the cars, and he's just banging on the window, and they roll down the window, and he's like, what's happening? Why is everybody leaving? Whatever. And they're like, we're just going to another party or whatever. And according to the kids in this car, this seemed to like Tyler was just relieved when they said like, oh, we're just going to another party. He was like, he looked panicked, and then he was like, oh, you know. So apparently when everyone got to the house where the second party was supposed to be, there wasn't actually a party there. Like it was just a rumor. And like the girl came out in her pajamas. She was like, why are you guys here? Like, so even though they left, and obviously there's a lot more people at the house now, they all left like in droves. So it's like teenagers and a bunch of cars leaving at the same time. They're all like fucking blasting music and stuff. Mm-hmm. So this was enough to wake up the neighbors.
Well, yeah, it's not like a let's go home type of leave. It's like a let's go rage somewhere else leave.
Let's keep the party going. And this is around 2 a.m. So his next door neighbor, who was Rayanne Wallace, called the police, and 2 officers showed up at the Hadley home. Now, by the time they got there were less than 20 people at Tyler's house. So Tyler told everyone to hide in his room, and he went to greet the officers at the door. So the cops told Tyler that there were some noise complaints, and Tyler apologized. He talked to them for a few minutes, and then they left.
Okay.
They just left. I'm like, do you not realize that there's like teens drinking in there?
Teen drinking is very bad.
It's very, very bad. Don't do it. Now, around 2:30 a.m., some of the kids who had left to go to the fake party were starting to return to Tyler's house. And at this time,
they're like, hey, your party's still going on? This one was fake.
Yep. So they're like, let's go back to Tyler's.
We're coming back around.
He wasn't acting weird at all when we tried to leave. So
not at all.
At this time, Michael decides, okay, it's time for me to go now. As everyone's coming back, Michael decides to leave. But before he did, he took the bottle of Percocet that Tyler had told him earlier in the night that he was going to use to kill himself. He took this bottle and hid the Percocets in a closet in the house. I'm like,
couldn't just take them with you?
Yeah, I would take them with you next time. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. So once Michael was gone, others began to notice that Tyler was acting strangely. He was pacing around the house, closing all the blinds. He turned off all the lights in the front rooms of the house so the cops wouldn't see the lights on. And he told another kid in passing that he was going to kill himself. One of the last people to leave around 3 a.m. said that Tyler was making a sandwich in the kitchen with the lights off when he left. At 4:40 a.m., Tyler posted a Facebook status that read, quote, "Party at my house again. Hit me up." At 4:40 a.m. So like he was about to have another party.
Let's have another party instead.
He was about to have another party the next day. Or he was going to try to. But literally, as he was typing out this message, what he did not realize was that the police were outside of his house preparing to confront a possible murderer. Oh. Because when Michael left the house earlier that morning, which was around 2:30 a.m., he came around and he did the right thing and he called Crime Stoppers to report everything Tyler had told him. So the officers are like,
good job, Michael.
Yes. Now, one of the responding officers, which was Officer Green, peeked into the front window as he approached the house. He saw Tyler pacing back and forth, talking to himself. And Officer Green wrote in his report that Tyler had, quote, "a very disturbing look on his face. His eyes were wide and he was not blinking," end quote. According to Green's report, Tyler began grabbing stacks of books off the bookshelves and walking them over to the bedroom door and frantically dumping them onto the floor before returning to the living room bookshelves for more books. So he does this 3 or 4 times. He's just grabbing a bunch of books, walking in the room, throwing them in there, and then going back for more. And after he does this a couple times, the cops are like, okay, we got to go in. I don't know what this kid's doing. So
would this be considered a psychotic break, or is this him on fucking 3
I think
rounds of ecstasy?
This is probably a normal reaction to have after you fucking brutally murder your parents with a hammer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's very sane to act insane after killing your parents. You know what I mean?
True.
So the police knock on the door, ring the doorbell. But before answering the door, Tyler walked around the house and turned all the lights off before he went up to the door. So when he finally opens the door, he's holding one hand behind his back. So the officers immediately draw their guns and they tell Tyler, put your hands up and come outside. He pauses for a moment, but then he does. He puts his hands up. There's nothing in them. He comes outside. So the officers search him, handcuff him, and they said that at this time, Tyler's pupils were extremely dilated and he was acting very erratic. So they leave Tyler in the driveway, handcuffed. The way that it's written, it makes it sound like they left him alone out there. But I'm like, that cannot possibly be true. I assume there must have been at least one officer with him. But they leave Tyler outside. They go inside. And as they're walking into the home, Tyler's shouting after them, you can't go in there. Don't go in there. Which, terrifying. But the house inside was completely trashed. And the bed in Ryan's old room was flipped over and broken. They found the Hadley's Labrador locked in a closet.
Oh, I forgot about the dogs.
I don't know where the other dog was. I believe the dog was fine, but I couldn't find where they found the beagle.
He was locked in a closet.
Right?
That's so sad.
Right?
Those dogs must have been traumatized.
Right? Because they were probably...
I mean, yeah, they got to see all that happen, and then their mom and dad are just fucking not around anymore.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so sad.
And of course, the saddest of all, they find the bodies of Blake and Mary Jo under a pile of bloodied rubbish in the master bedroom. Now, the couple's funeral was massive, with almost 1,000 people in attendance. Tyler's brother, Ryan, who was 23 at the time of the murders, told his neighbor, Rayanne Wallace, and that's the one that had called 911 that night. Mm-hmm. He told her at the funeral that he was going to see Tyler in jail for the first time that night. So this was going to be the first time the brothers would see each other after the murders. Rayanne basically asked him, what are you going to do? And Ryan just explained to her, quote, it's what my parents would want me to do. They wouldn't want me to abandon him. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'll probably just sit there and cry, end quote.
Wow. Doesn't
that just could you imagine if your brother killed your parents,
and then you'd have to go see him in prison?
I mean, because he's your only family member left.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you guys don't know this, me and Emily, we both only have one sibling. We both have an older brother who's 2 years older than us. So we're in a very similar, family as the Hadley family. It's the 2 parents and the 2 boys, and Tyler was the youngest. But
that makes me question how close they were, growing up and up until this point,
Right. My heart breaks for Ryan.
I can't say I would do the same.
My heart breaks for Ryan because, I can't imagine, losing your parents in such a horrific way. But then for the person who did that to them to be your own brother, someone that you love is unimaginable. And
yeah.
My heart goes out to him. Now, a lot of the main questions we would normally have about a murder case have already been answered. We know who, we know what, we know how, and we know when. But we don't have the answer to the most important question of all, which is why. Now, I'm not sure what Tyler's answer would be if we asked him that question today. However, we do know that on the day of the murders, his answer was just, why the fuck not? Now, I think most of us could give a million answers to why not, but we can really only speculate on why he did this. Now, it sounds like the family had some struggles, but nothing,
no more than any other normal family.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying these parents were perfect, but I'm saying they did not deserve this.
Yeah, they did the best with what they had.
And
sounds like it.
Right. Now, for his Rolling Stone article, Nathaniel Rich asked this question to many of Tyler's friends. Why do you think he did this? Michael Mandel, who was the one who called police, this is Tyler's best friend, he told Rich that Blake had once punched Tyler in the face. But Michael said that even if that were true, because he was like, I don't even know if, even though Tyler told me that, I don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
That's not verbatim. Those are my words, that whatever. But he said even if this were true, he didn't really believe that it would lead to Tyler murdering his parents over that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, Tyler told another friend once that Blake wasn't his real dad. However, this was a lie. Blake was his father. So I don't know. I don't know when he told the friend that, but because one of the friends said, well, maybe he killed them because Blake wasn't his real dad. And then the reporter's like, no, he is. Like, this is a proven fact that it was his dad. So
did he just really believe that he wasn't his real dad?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Or was
I think
he just
it was a lie.
he's not my real dad.
I think it was a lie, but it's like that makes you question, well, why was he saying that?
Yeah.
Now, overall, the general consensus from his friends was that it was Tyler's drug use that led to the murders. It was reported by friends that Tyler drank heavily, smoked weed, and, quote, popped pills like a madman, end quote. Now, this included Xanax, Percocet, ecstasy, and OxyContin, all of which were actually somewhat common amongst teens in the area. Like, this was, I don't know about you guys, but when we were in high school and stuff, people didn't, maybe some of the
extremists,
but it wasn't it's not like we would go to a party. If you heard somebody
pop an ecstasy or oxy or any of those, you're like, I'm in the wrong place.
Right. At least if you were me and Emily, you thought that. Now, while in jail, Tyler wrote a letter to his grandparents, blaming the murders on a psychiatric medication that he was prescribed, writing, quote, I wish I never started taking that damn pill. None of this would have ever happened, end quote. In a different letter written to a friend this time, Tyler claimed, quote, I regret everything I did. I swear it's those drugs, man, end quote. Yet in another letter, a third letter to a friend, Tyler bragged about being a celebrity in the jail, saying that inmates would ask him for autographs and he would sign them hammer time. So he's telling his grandparents, oh yeah, it was the drugs that made me do it. I never wanted to do this and I regret it and blah, 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 blah. And then he's literally signing autographs in the jail, hammer time.
It's where it counts, he's proud of what he did.
Right.
Where they're like, oh, we'll give you praise for it. Or to his friends, he's like, no, it was just the drugs, trying to get out of it.
It's just because, yes, I know that there are reports that maybe Blake had hit him. And that is horrible. And if that's the case, I feel for Tyler at that time before he did all this horrible shit. But I just feel like I cannot understand why he did this. It's even hard to speculate on. I truly do not believe that it was just the drugs.
No. That's
what some people say is, oh, he just snapped on the drug. It's no, he planned this for months. He says and you know what, we're going to get to it. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Nathaniel Rich comprised some excerpts from Tyler's letters from prison that he felt represented Tyler's state of mind. So I'm going to read you a whole paragraph here that's quotes. I believe there's separate quotes that he put together.
Okay.
I don't know that it fully matters, but just so you have the context. So he says, quote, I was just living my life as a normal 17-year-old kid, and next thing I know, I'm in the middle of St. Lucie County Jail. I ruined a lot of people's lives, and I can't seem to forgive myself. I find myself crying a lot because of all the guilt. Every day, I beg for forgiveness, and I ask God not to send me to hell. I don't want to go there. Father Michael told me that if I just confess my sins and repent, then God will forgive me for everything. I just can't get rid of all this guilt. It's swallowing me whole. I'm extremely nervous that I'm going to get a life sentence. It's making me pretty depressed. I want to say I'm really sorry for all the grief I've stirred up. I know everyone thinks I'm a psychopath and all, but I really am sorry for everything. I've been praying every day for forgiveness and for sorry, I'm sorry. He literally wrote, I've been praying every day for forgiveness and for a decent plea offer. I should get one since it's my first offense. I feel extremely bad for Ryan and especially you and my other grandparents for the grief I've caused. I feel like Ryan doesn't love me anymore, but I know he does, and he's just going through a rough time. It's so hard going through this. I'm scared and I feel so alone, end quote.
He literally sounds like such a narcissist. Like, this dude sounds like he has multiple, dude, I don't know, something whack is going around on in that brain of his, because to me it sounds like he is not remorseful or guilty or feels bad about doing what he did at all.
100%.
The only thing he's nervous and sad about is his consequences.
Exactly. He's like, I ask God for forgiveness because I don't want to go to hell.
Yeah. And
I think I deserve a
better plea deal or whatever.
I'm praying every day for forgiveness and for a decent plea offer. Like, everything is about him. And he goes, I know everyone thinks I'm a psychopath. And I know someone's going to yell at me for saying this because I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, and blah, 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 which is all true. Valid point. But I'm going to say it anyway.
It's my opinion.
I think he's given psychopath energy.
100%.
It's giving psychopath. It is giving psychopath. I mean, I can't really find anything that's very convincing to me as a motive, except that he wanted to have a fucking party.
Yeah.
And that's how I had always heard about this case, but I kind of thought once I dig into it, there's going to be some like more reasoning that people just, I thought it was just very sensationalized, the party thing, but it's not. Like, I really can't find anything like substantive enough to convince me that it was a motive, except that like he just wanted to have a fucking party. Mm-hmm. That's what, and he just didn't want his parents around. I don't know, and I'm not saying that is the correct answer, that's really what it was. I'm saying that's the only thing that we know of, to my knowledge.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense.
And so it's giving like psychopath. It's giving there's no remorse. He's only concerned about consequences to himself. Mm-hmm. And the reason that the motive doesn't make sense to us is because, people who are not psychopaths, we're weighing the consequences of our actions to like the weight of the reward. And for Tyler, in this scenario, if this is what the motive was having the party, if that's what it was, we would look at it as like, well, is having one party worth what might happen if I murder my parents? Is it worth losing my parents? Is it worth taking my parents away? Like, obviously not. Those things outweigh each other. But like, when you can't be connected to long-term consequences emotionally, you don't weigh those two. You're just like, okay, what do I want right now? I want to have a party. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. And I don't know.
But also his Facebook posts, to me, make it sound like he was contemplating, like, okay, do I want to have this party or do I want to kill my parents? Because, like, he was like, oh, party tonight, maybe. And then literally, like, 7 hours later.
I think he wasn't sure if he could go through with it. Yeah.
Like, yeah. And he still did it. And then he has no remorse for it. So, dude, that's... it's very crazy.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's really spooky because he
was so
hide
young
it well
too. Like,
yeah, and he seemed to hide it well, at least around his family. Mm-hmm. I know he was saying stuff to his friends, but like, it seemed like his mother. She didn't think that. Her friend asked her, "Do you think he's going to hurt you?" And she said, "No. Like, I'm just worried about him hurting himself." And the grandfather said, he was with them the week before. He had no idea. Like, it's just, it's so spooky.
Sad.
It is really spooky. Now, in a letter to...
Also, this dude, he is a spooky looking kid.
He is spooky.
Do you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of YB from Coraline. How he's like so
I don't know
sad
what YB
all the time.
looks like.
Oh my God, I gotta show you. This dude reminds me of him. Tell me doesn't look like him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
He's
sure.
just like sad and like just has that like depressing looking face.
Yeah. So, in a letter to Michael Mandel, he told Michael that he forgave him, writing, quote, I wish I could throw back some Miller Lights and smoke a fat-ass strawberry white owl. But I gotta say, it feels good to be sober. My head is nice and clear. Make sure you drink some Miller for me. Drink yourself stupid like I used to. I swear to you, Michael, the devil had a hold on me. I talked to him and he talked to me. That's why I seemed so crazy towards the end. I'm not a cold-blooded monster like everyone thinks I am. I'm a caring person that made a horrible mistake. You gotta let people know that, end quote.
That's giving possessed to me.
That's giving bullshit to me. It's giving bullshit to me.
It's giving bullshit to me too, but like the way I don't know, man. What if he was possessed? He was talking to the devil.
No,
maybe
he wasn't. He's just a horrible person.
But maybe he took so many drugs that he was seeing shit and was like, thought he was talking to the devil. You know? Just a theory.
Maybe, but also even if that were, I don't care. Same punishment for you.
Literally.
Honestly, to be...
Oh, it's not an excuse.
In this scenario, I know that...
I'm just trying to figure out why the fuck he did it and like where his mindset is, because...
I don't know.
It still blows my mind. I just don't... Nothing makes sense.
That's why this case bothers me. So, in 2014, Tyler pleaded no contest on 2 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. However, this sentence was overturned in 2016 by the Court of Appeals after the court ruled that the original sentencing judge, quote, did not consider the correct alternative to a life sentence, end quote.
Really?
They cited a 2012 Supreme Court ruling in the case of Miller versus Alabama that barred mandatory life sentences for adolescent killers. So, in layman's terms, to the best of my understanding, and I am not a lawyer, so I'm just trying to explain it to the best of how I understand it, which might not be 100, but I think it's about 90 at least. So, normally, a first-degree murder charge in Florida would have a mandatory life sentence as like a minimum sentence. But because Tyler was a minor at the time of the crime, the life sentence wasn't mandatory for him. And what they're arguing is that the judge was basically like, he just never considered the possibility of not giving him a life sentence. Mm-hmm. So that's what they're saying. They're like, this wasn't like a fair sentencing because he is supposed to consider the other option of not giving him a life sentence. So Blake's brother, Mike Hadley, so this is Tyler's uncle, he was appalled at this ruling, the overturning of the sentencing. And he said, quote, he got a lighter sentence because he didn't get the death penalty. He's lucky he got what he got. He's my nephew, and yes, I love my family and I love my nephew, but I love him enough that he needs to stay where he's at until the day he dies, end quote.
Damn.
Hell yeah, Mike.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
Hell yeah, Mike. Virtual high five. Now, at the resentencing hearing in 2018, Mike read a statement aloud to the court saying, quote, he was given the only sentence that made any sense at all. Life in a controlled environment where all of his needs are provided for without any chance of parole. We have once again sat through a gut-wrenching horror show. Only it was not a movie or a play. It was reality. It was my family, people who we loved. My brother Blake and my sister-in-law, Mary Jo, were the main actors in this horror show. The villain was my nephew, Tyler. He was loved so dearly by his mother and father and all of us. Yet he premeditated the killing of his mother and father, and I know without any doubt that he was old enough to know the difference between right and wrong. Mm-hmm. He carried out this evil act of pure selfishness and enjoyed every minute of horror he inflicted on his loving parents. Then he goes and celebrates his long planned out accomplishment by throwing a drunken party with friends. End quote. And I just feel like you could not have summed that up better. This whole case, the way he just summed that up is like...
The key word to me was selfish because 100%. That's the only thing I can describe him
and he's
as.
Old enough to know that, like...
Yeah. He was old enough to know that's wrong.
100%. He's 17.
Yeah.
Like, he was 17.
He was almost legally an adult.
Yeah, and I listened to, like... I've heard so many podcasts and stuff on this case, and I remember one, like, I was listening to, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but, like, they were kind of saying... Because he ends up being resentenced to life in prison. I guess let me explain this first. So he's resentenced to life in prison at the second sentencing hearing. But due to a newly adopted juvenile sentencing law in Florida, his sentence will be subject to review after 25 years served, which means that, like, every 25 years, his sentence is going to be reviewed. So after that sentencing... the Hadley family's gonna go have to experience that horror show that Mike was talking about again. And, you know...
I mean, every 25 years until he's not alive anymore.
Right. And unless they let him out after
God, I hope not.
But as long as they don't let him out, because I personally don't believe that he should ever be let out.
Yeah, he sounds like a threat to society.
I know that some people are going to disagree because I was listening to one podcast and I understood her point of view. She was saying, and I honestly, this was so long ago, I don't even remember which podcast it was or who it was saying this. So, like, I don't even want to guess because I don't want to attribute it to the wrong person. But she was just saying, like, he was so young. Isn't the goal of putting people in prison to rehabilitate them and all of that, maybe he should be let out in 25 years, if he's doing well and whatever. I personally disagree. I think there is an obvious lack of... If there was evidence that they were, like, abusing him his whole life, I know there was some... It sounds like there may have been some abuse. But, like, what I'm saying is if there was, like, the Menendez brothers, that you go back and you see that, they were being sexually abused by, like, their whole lives or whatever, then I would say, okay, let's review the case every so often and see because there's such a clear-cut reason why they did what they did that makes me think, okay, maybe they could be rehabilitated and they can be let out, and they wouldn't do that to someone else because someone else isn't sexually abusing them for decades.
Yeah, like, that's not what their goal was. Like,
but that's not what happened here. This is a senseless crime that happened. And that makes me think he's a danger to people because he could do it to anybody is what it feels like, is anyone who gets in his way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just me. I'm not even saying I'm right. That's just the way I feel about it in this moment, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the only reason he did that was a means to get something that he wanted. That was literally the only reason why that we know of that he killed them.
Unless other information comes out that says otherwise.
Yeah.
Then, okay, let's hear it. But I don't know. I just feel like this kid is a fucking dangerous person. And I agree with his uncle. I agree with Mike.
Did they do a psychiatric evaluation on him and they said he was sane?
Well, they didn't have to because he didn't stand trial. Like, he pled no contest. So he didn't.
Oh, he didn't say
they didn't
yay or
do
nay that he did or not?
No.
All right, well.
No, but.
Maybe that's why. Because I'm sure his defense was probably like, if you go on trial, they will. Like, he's never getting out of there.
I believe Florida has the death penalty, so I think he pled no contest because if he went to trial, he would probably get the death penalty.
Yeah,
because he was old enough to get the death penalty, I think.
Damn.
So, yeah, and This is the kind of shit that like breaks my heart. I'm like, could you imagine? Like, I mean, his parents knew that their son was murdering them. It's not like he shot them while they were sleeping or something. He came at them with a hammer, and they knew what was happening in that moment. They knew my son is fucking murdering me with a hammer right now. And it just is I don't know. It's just horrible. And this case bothers me because I'm one of those people, like, I always want an answer to why. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we don't have a good one here. Not that there's ever a good reasoning. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't have
something that makes sense to me that will like be
I'm
like,
not
satisfied. I see why he did that. I don't see why he would.
Exactly. I just feel like, I don't know. That's why I like said at the top, I'm like, is there more that we don't know? I don't know. It just doesn't, this makes no sense to me. But that's why I think it's giving psychopath, because it makes sense if you lose all emotional connection to anything, you know? I don't know.
It makes me so sad that it also, and like his parents weren't really fighting back. They were protecting themselves, like obviously because of the way that they were murdered, you know, like all of their injuries and stuff. But like, I don't know. It didn't seem like they protected, like they were fighting back at all, which is so sad because what do? You know, when your son is like out of nowhere murdering you and you walk in on him brutally just going at your wife, you know?
I don't know.
What do you do? Because like, do you save your wife or do you save yourself? Or do you stop him from doing that? Like, what are you supposed to do in that moment? I think he was probably just so shocked. And I don't know. That's so sad. It makes me so sad to like think of how they were feeling in that moment.
I can't even imagine. Well, on that very, very sad note, I think court is adjourned for today. So I think everyone
leave that one where it is.
Everyone go hug your families and tell them that you love them, or your close friends, whoever
all of them
is your fam, blood or not. Okay. Court is adjourned.
Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta.